Hare Krishna, welcome to my first ever live series. Today we're going to talk about spirituality, and with me I have the most phenomenal motivational speaker and the president of ISKCON Nepal, Rupesvara Gauradas Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, welcome to my live series.
Thank you.
So Prabhuji, I think before we talk about spirituality, we need to know what got you or attracted you to spirituality. A student of computer science. With that, how did you pursue spirituality?
Okay, so साँच्चै कुरा गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ because I was educated in science, I was like completely not spiritual at all, and I didn't have any kind of belief in religious activities and all this. And we say that we are Hindu and in mandir jane, and mandir pani kina jane, केटीहरुलाई हेर्न जाने, all these kind of things, So definitely, but I did like software engineering, but at the same time, and I was in search of happiness, right? So I'm a kind of person that like I always want to laugh, smile, be happy, but then once in a while again, kahaबाट दुःख त आइहाल्छ, right? So this world is like full of like suffering, miseries, yeah. So I was like, I remember that was 2003, and then I was like just married. So after 1 month's time, I met one Russian devotee. Right, so Russian devotee, and I was like shocked. You were guru chala bhako मान्छे, like with के भन्छ साधुको लुगा लगाएर पुरा हैन आएको थियो चिन्दै पुरै. And I was like, that time I was like thinking of going to America. I was like preparing, and there comes like white skinned guy with the robe of a monk, and I was like kind of surprised. And of course, like after एकछिन कुरा गरिसकेपछि, it's like I generally tell to everyone this thing. So in the middle of the conversation, he asked me, have you read Bhagavad Gita? Now, problem ke bhayo bhandakari, I didn't have the answer. I've never like even read or even seen Bhagavad Gita. No, this is the book, and I've never seen. Right. So then at the same time, I didn't want it to be defeated by this monk. If I say no means Hindu is like Hindu got lost, in front of Quire. So then I said, come on, I mean, I'm still young, ma buda budi bhayeपछि, when I get old, I'll read the book. And say, oh, that means you have not read it. Well, we are living in 21st century. And what is this? Is an old book. I don't know even know it's like a real or not. It's a mythology or we don't even know. We don't have any basis, right? So anyway, the book for the 21st century, what relevance will it make? So then to end the conversation, I declared it. It's a rubbish book. Like that.
You just declared it's a myth.
Yeah, it's a myth. It's a rubbish book. Rubbish means like it's good enough to be thrown in the trash can, right? So then he said, oh yeah, he was cool. He was cool. He should be angry with me, but he was cool. And that also surprised me. And then he said like, well, you have not read it. How do you know it's a rubbish book? Right? Then, makes sense. Then he said, you read it and then you prove it that it's a rubbish book, I'll accept it. Then I thought, okay, Quirelai challenge garnai paryo, So I got one copy in English. Then I started like reading it. And well, first chapter padahara ta boring nahi lagyo. It was like preface of Bhagavad Gita and all this kind of stuff. But second chapter was like amazing. Each and every sloka was talking about the reality of life. All the questions which I used to have, like where the happiness comes from, where sadness comes from, why good thing happens to bad people, and why bad thing happens to good people. All these kind of things were answered. In each and every sloka, I was like reading some of the slokas. Even I had goosebumps, from Tadone, and I was like, wow. So after a while, I met him again, and he asked me, so kosto lagyo ta? I said, well, it's a nice book. So since then, I was like amazed that spirituality is also a science. It's amazing book, and it's amazing knowledge. And it's been now 16 years I've been practicing this, right? And then I was like, my life is like wonderful.
So coming back to what exactly is spirituality? How would you define spirituality? Where does spirituality lie in a human being?
Okay. Now, there's a big confusion, मान्छेहरुको हाम्रो समाजमा चाहिँ एउटा यो spirituality भनेको के हो, religion भनेको के हो, and it's like a big confusion is there. Means there are three things. I would always like explain it in three. There is religion, there is spirituality, and there is tradition. right? So rato tika nidarma talak talkiyo, na all these kind of things. And aba rato tika chamal ko tika laune, it's pahad ko system.
Okay.
If you go to Tarai or even India, there's no system. Even though Tarai and India, they are also like big follower of these scriptures. Rato tika chaina, they have other kind of tika. Kasaile yahan lagauncha, kasaile yahan lagauncha, kasaile, right? So it's a tradition. Matlab group of people, ancestors, or je garde aeko, we follow that. Right? So we follow that. That's the tradition. Then second is spirituality. Now spirituality means to understand our inner self.
Kind of like self-love.
Yeah. Are we the body? Are we the mind? Or are we Atma? Right? So to the journey within, we call it journey within, and going inside, and trying to find the real self. That's spirituality. We in हामीले नेपालीमा भन्दाखेरि के संस्कृतमा भन्दाखेरि आत्मा साक्षात्कार भन्ने भन्छ. And religion is your love for God, your connection with God. So see, I mean, we don't know the difference and we try to blend it, and राति नङ काट्नु हुँदैन, यो धर्म नष्ट हुन्छ, and all this kind of, what is dharma? I mean, people even don't know anything. But if you know these things in a separate way, beautiful, you can understand it in a beautiful way.
Since we hear a lot about dharma today in the world, dharma means Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Judaism, or whatever. They're like different kind of categories that is termed as dharma. According to you, what exactly is dharma?
Okay, so in my understanding, the dharma which we use for this Christianity, Hinduism, and Islam, these are all like I'll call it like a modern religion. And which doesn't have any solid basis to the real dharma, because the real dharma, the scripture, this is what we call Sanatan Dharma, which has been being practiced since time immemorial, right?
Yeah.
So the real dharma, the meaning ke vandahari, Prabhupada would translate. The Srila Prabhupada, who is the founder acharya of this organization, ISKCON. Right, he would explain it in the way that it's the occupational duty. Hamro kartabya kyo. Right now, husband ko dharma kyo, wife ko dharma kyo, and father ko, bua ko dharma kyo, ama ko dharma kyo, right? Chini ko dharma kyo. Gulyo ne. Right? The day the sugar becomes salty, dharma tyag kare. Right? We cannot call it sugar anymore. So the real, natural tendency kyo, that is dharma. There are of course, like we have used that word for the defining the belief system, belief system of a group of people, tribe or people in mass, and we name it Christianity, Hinduism, right? And so you can see Hindu word comes from the Britishers. Unarle yo Sindh Nadi bhanna najaner Hind Nadi bhanthyo, and anybody who lives beyond this Hind Nadi is Hindu, right? So if you see in the scripture, there is no word called Hindu.
Yeah. So coming back to one of the answers you gave, you said, we don't know if you are this body, mind, or soul. So consciousness is the most debatable topic between philosophers and scientists.
Okay.
So I would like to quote one from well-known philosopher Aristotle, and another from Sigmund Freud.
Okay.
So Aristotle said, "For often when one is asleep, there's something in consciousness which declares that what then presents itself is but a dream." And Sigmund Freud said, "The conscious mind may be compared to a fountain playing in the sun and falling back into great subterranean pool of subconscious from which it rises." So, right now in science or philosophy, we don't have a concrete definition of what consciousness is, because consciousness is compared to a vast ocean. You think you have reached the end, but it's not the end. There's a lot to explore. And the father of psychologist Wilhelm Wundt said that in order to figure out what is consciousness, you need to approach the introspective method. Like neurologists, they try to find consciousness through cognitive psychology by thinking, feeling of one mental state. So ISKCON itself is known as International Society for Krishna Consciousness.
Yes.
So what is the science and philosophy behind Krishna consciousness? The term itself as consciousness, what is the science behind consciousness?
Okay, so let me address it in a sequence like you have mentioned it, right?
Okay.
Okay, so यसमा चाहिँ के हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि I was like, see, um, सबभन्दा पहिला, the modern science को जुन faculty छ which deals with this consciousness is called psychology, right? We call it modern psychology. Now, modern psychology, and even nowadays, like there are like few fields of like science which is called quantum physics, and that they have like started like researching on consciousness, because after this double slit experiment, and that when they found that even electron has like consciousness, right? So they were forced to like think about consciousness. Right, so even quantum physics is like researching, and there's also like faculty called subtle science. So if you see the research work of the modern science in this field of consciousness, they are new. And उनीहरुसँग भनेको मतलब के भन्दाखेरि modern science सँग they don't have much researches or like evidences to give a theory on consciousness, whereas the spiritual science, which has been, I mean, been practiced since like a long time back and thousands of years, and which we can even like read in today's world. And now when we read today, we can see this spiritual science even starts from the level of mind, not even body. Body is normal. Everyone, we can see, body, we can see our doctors, modern medical is like so much aware about the physical body, how it works, brain, heart, and all, each and every organ. And we have developed so many like sophisticated machines like MRI, and CT scan, and that's like then ultrasound and all these kind of things.
Brain imaging, which is very famous.
So bodily platform we are like experts, but the spiritual science begins from the level of mind. Then it talks about intelligence, then Atma, and how, and all these like cognitive or like intellectual, so I'm the word we use, then brain and all this kind of things, very well defined in spiritual science, right? So we are also like using the knowledge of spiritual science to like really help people who are mentally ill, not brain ill, mentally ill. There are modern psychology care. So if someone comes with a mental illness, they give the medicine about the brain like dull gardiyo, it's like sedatives or nindra lagne tauti khuaidincha, and then dull huncha, their mind is still working. That's what Sigmund Freud said, sorry, Aristotle, like you said, like about the dream, right? So dream bhaneko ke ho bhandakeri, it's a state of our body which is in rest, but mind is not in rest. So, and mind has two abilities. Mind can physically travel, right? Physically, and mind can also like imagine. So sometimes we can see like akashma udiraeko and all this kind of things,
Does that explain in psychology what would be called a schizophrenic or someone with PDHD, right?
That's true.
So because of the mind, they're seeing things, they're hearing things. So how would spirituality define such, like you said, mind travels? How would spirituality define how mind travels? What is the reason that mind travels?
Okay, so we have three types of body. According to spirituality, we have three types of body: physical, subtle, and spiritual. Now, spiritual body we are not experiencing now because that's in the spiritual world, right? Whereas in this world we have two types of, this is physical body, and chala, haddi, masu, isko sarir. And then we have man, buddhi, ahankar, and mind, intelligence, and false ego, right? That's a subtle body. Now, if you see, which one is more powerful, the physical body or the mind?
Mind. For me,
right?
I would say mind.
Now, the worst part is, now each and every place I go and ask like which one is more powerful, everyone, 100% of the people, Nepal mai pani, and मान्छेहरुले answer दिन्छ मन ठुलो, मन is more powerful. Now the worst part is, most of them, they don't even know what mind is. And if I ask, mind कहाँ छ भन्नुस्? This is brain. Come on, this is brain. This is dimag. See, we have different words. Dimag, man. Man कहाँ छ? Then I have to ask them, man दुख्यो भने कहाँ दुख्छ?
यहाँ दुख्छ.
यहाँ दुख्छ. So that's the way, that's, spirituality says this is the place of mind. Means it's a subtle, it's not physical, it's subtle, and it lives in the region of the heart. From here, the first effect of the mind, we're coming close to consciousness. First effect of the mind goes to the Agya Chakra. Agya Chakra governs the brain. Brain, in my computer language, it says brain works like a firmware, mind is a software, and firmware controls the five senses. The body, it controls the body. So this is how it is like, this is how it is functioning. And so even the body is like unconscious, mind is conscious. And that's why they have lots of experiments done. They call it out of the body experiment. No, you must have like studied in psychology that out of the body experience. People are like being operated. They're like chloroform sungara, body is like unconscious, brain is unconscious, but still that guy comes out of the body and looks at everything, what's happening. Doctors are like ke kura garyo, ke kosari katyo, and then after he comes in back into the consciousness, and when he becomes conscious, then this guy explains to the doctors, hey guys, you guys did this like this, and in medical terms. And that has been experimented. Why? Because the spiritual sciences, the mind, the subtle body and the physical body are two different things. We can completely separate it. So sutireko belama unconsciously sometimes, and we can do time travel.
Like dreaming.
Yeah, not dreaming. Dreaming, we can say we will perceive it as a dream, but sometimes that dream is real, and sometimes that dream is imagination. Now, if it is real, if the time has done the future time travel and come back, sometimes in real life, in reality, we will experience what we call in psychology as deja vu. And hey, you moment paile bhaisakyo, you dialogue मैले paile बोलिसके, exactly यही situation. So how that deja vu happens is your mind unconsciously, because we are not trained. Now, if we learn how to meditation and all, we can do it consciously. We can do time traveling consciously, and that's what Rishi Muniharu, they all do it. And they will sit in a samadhi, and then they will do the traveling.
So some would call consciousness a synonym of mind. Some would say an aspect of mind. So according to you, is it a synonym of mind or just an aspect of mind?
Wow. See, I mean, this also differs from the modern psychology, because the consciousness, and our Chaitanya, consciousness goes back. It's not the product of mind at all. It's the product of Atma. Right? See, consciousness is the first thing which like propagates and emanates from this Atma. And the Atma le purai त्यो त्यसको reason, what do we call aura, and the aura बनाउँछ, right? And त्यो consciousnessले intelligence र mind लाई empower गर्छ. Now intelligence को product लाई विवेक भन्छ, र mind को product लाई impression भन्छ. Now what comes from the mind is impression. No? हाम्रो normal language मा, no? Layman language मा भन्ने हो भने ए केटाहरु म impression जमाउन जान लागेको भन्छ नि.
First impression is the last impression.
Yeah, first